Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 178 of Mini Truckin Magazine, October 2006. Don't forget to keep it tuned to OLP. We are your Mini Truckin headquarters. This is Australia's first Mini Truckin Magazine cover. It was owned by a guy named Lincoln Doring, and it's a 90 HiLux, also known as Extra Cab, of course, here. This epic bridge in the back is definitely a nice touch. This was Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia. It's the 18th Sever Ties truck to be featured on the cover. You can see the logo there. It's also Mike Alexander's 15th credited cover. This was the biggest issue to date, including the back cover. You have 132 pages. It's the first of 5 total times that happened. But again, when you pick up this issue, you can certainly tell that it's bigger, if that makes sense. We'll have a tie-in to Whitesburg, Kentucky. I got a chance to go there last year for Cruising with Cruisers, an awesome show, and just a very, very cool coverage. Very, very cool cover. So let's dive right in. I know it's been a little bit of a break. It seems like the summer came and just been focusing on different stuff. But rest assured, my goal is to finish up these flip-throughs this year. And I'm also going to get back on the individual features. So I know not everybody has time to go watch all of these, depending on your type of job. But certainly, I'm going to get back to posting more individual features. And I started at issue 1 with those as well. Those will all be in playlists. Very cool. Probably one of the best table of contents photos up to this point. Of course, not necessarily car related, but it was related to this issue, being that Mike and Chad had taken the trek abroad. I do like as well, you can see the trucks lined across the top here. So it just makes for easy, like, hey, here's what's in it. You've got very clear delineation of the page numbers for those. And here's where we get some of the intel, including the location. Mike, quote, stunt double, Alexander, Sydney Harbour Bridge, Australia, and very, very cool TOC, table of contents. Now, shout out to Koolaid. I think he may have chimed in on one of the posts recently. He was still doing the dang thing, but back in those days, he was running hard, hitting all the shows, and he had a good relationship with Oasis, so they put him in an ad. Mini Truckin Celebrity. But an issue like this couldn't come together without advertisers stepping up, because again, yeah, you can keep printing and printing and printing more pages, but it costs more money. So not everybody has the budget to go, sure, let's add an extra 20 pages. One word, indescribable. So you've got Mike talking about, for his Draggin Thru column, the trip abroad. Here you have Forbidden Fantasy. This was the year that the upcoming year that they were going to give away a truck. So that was pretty cool. You've got your normal news. And then this was kind of a cool ad from Navy SEALs. I had forgotten about this ad. And it basically shows them as the little kind of tumbleweeds, how inconspicuous they could be. I think that's the word. Here you have Scott Poe's 89 Chevy S-10, Lexington, Kentucky. And then you have Frank with his Hardbody. This is technically, you'll hear a lot of people kind of call these obviously Hardbodies, but D21s as well. Super cool. And we get a chance now to see, with the worldwide coverage, something that's abroad. Of course, you've got color here, which we didn't always have in under construction. Lots of color ads here. This is an issue. If I have duplicates, I usually take the best one, and that goes into my main binders. But this is Relentless, Todd Honer, and of course it still has the subscription card, so I'm holding that up so you can get a chance to kind of see here. Todd Honer, 96 S-10 from St. Louis, of course, repping Severed. And it looks like it's got that little... It's hard to tell if it's got the little deal on top of the tailgate there, but it looks definitely cool. It's hard to find cleaned S10s that haven't really been messed with. There's a static dropped one around here that I always see, kind of cool truck. But getting back to this truck, you can see here, I always liked when they would do this. Magazines kind of go back and forth. They would put a photo of the owner in there. I certainly always thought that was cool. It gives you a little bit of insight to the type of person they are. We've seen that even with street trucks as well. Meltdown 2005. And I'm going through all these. These are all in 4K. You can always bump up the resolution. Most of us have our resolution set to auto based upon your bandwidth. Super cool here. This gave some insight to the worldwide mini trucks, or mini trucks out, worldwide outside of the country. You've got right-hand drive, Isuzu Holden, space cab. Again, you can even see on these, they had the beds kind of like the HiLux with the channel right there. Clear windows, just something a little bit different. And obviously, the internet was big at this point too, but it was cool to see, Australia eventually ends up with their own magazine called Bagged, Mini Truckin' Bagged magazine. And there's only a handful of those. I have most of them. But, it's cool because Mini Truckin's been huge down there. Of course, big in Japan, some in New Zealand as well, and in other countries. But this, to be able to have this October 2006 issue and see it firsthand was certainly cool. So it was awesome that Mike and Chad Lucas brought that to us. Here you can see, this was always one of my favorite things, to see the renderings, because you get a chance to see some upcoming trucks, but you also get to see some of the, the artists that got, a little bit of love. Plus you'd see some wild stuff, some different ideas, whether it was just said company kind of throwing together some ideas, maybe trying to sell a rendering to someone. But definitely cool. This was the Mini Truckin Lyfestyle that they kind of ended up branding. And of course you've got your hard luck of the month, where they would give out, a little bit of stuff to help you get back on track if your project was derailed. There's always some cool tattoos in here and various other things in that section. A big part of it is whether you've worked in the magazine industry or not. Many of you probably realize, again, without the advertisers, they can't bump up the pages. And that's certainly a big thing. Here you have Domination. Shout out to Oliver. He was at Mini Nats this year. You have Low Life. There's Low Life Mikey. And Chad Lucas's full size that he got and finished was there too. The Surface. This is certainly a cool DVD as well. Surface Nick we've had on. And this was an RA Florida truck. Back in the day, kind of the early days of RA Florida, but certainly cool. Lots of cool trucks. And those DVDs, man, like I don't have every single one of them, but we're like in an era now. Here's MT Sketchpad, pretty epic. Plain Jane. But we're in an era now where a lot of that stuff is very nostalgic. And of course, the ones I do have, I really appreciate the fact that I have them. I'd love to continue bringing content to you guys through social media with some of that stuff. So hopefully I can continue to do that. Weekend Warriors Part 3, continuing the tech articles. That would have been important, as you know. And then School Road. I always thought this was cool because, believe it or not, I grew up on School Road, believe it or not. And there was a mini truck shirt. You guys remember what it was called back in the day? Don't get taken to what? School Road. But this, of course, is titled SKOOL, School Road. Sometimes it's the only road to travel. You've got Mike Alexander. And what you can see here is, although you would think this is the centerfold, it technically isn't. We'll see that here in a minute. Really epic truck. And you think back even to this era with, 2006, believe it or not, almost 20 years ago. Not quite, but I mean, look at just the different styles, with all of this going on in the interior, just things you wouldn't necessarily see here, possibly in Australia, but I mean, just a super clean mini truck. And of course it being right-hand drive, a little bit different there with the firewall on, this side, of course it being smoothed out and everything. But Lincoln Doring, really, really cool truck, definitely deserving. And if it wasn't for this feature, a lot of us would have never even seen this truck. And look how much work went into it. I mean, the inside of the bed, the undercarriage, just a really cool sound system in that era when a lot of people were flipping the subs and kind of reverse mounting them, if you will. What do you guys think of this style? You think it still plays today, or was that kind of more era specific? I think it was kind of era specific. You'll sometimes see it, but I certainly think this setup here, man, for an extra cab, super clean. You can see all the chrome, all the hard line, you know, even with the front license plate done the way it is, the billet mirrors, the undercarriage, the rear end. I mean, you know, trucks like this, dare I say, here, a lot of people might scratch their head and go, I don't remember this truck, or I vaguely remember that cover. But one of the reasons why I do these videos is like, hey, just because you don't remember this truck and how epic it was doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to get its kudos. And like, to me, this is one that's like, man, you know, really pushed the bar. And oh, by the way, first Australian cover for mini trucking. I mean, look at that feature. Look at that. Now, what my what my assumption is, you know, there was a little bit of Photoshop maybe that has to happen, right? You've got a long exposure here. You know, Mike would have to chime in, but whether this truck is parked exactly here or they took this, you know, photo, long exposure, and then they put the truck here, regardless, definitely really, really awesome. And this, of course, was the centerfold, and that was the center part where the staples are at, so you could easily take that out. So here you have Danger Zone 06. Danger, danger. And you got Chad Lucas. So they mixed in a little bit of the U.S. coverage. I always love that blazer there on the upper right. And then you got Desert Dragger. This show coverage to me was great because you had a mix of mostly these a little bit smaller photos so you could fit more in there. You have a couple of larger photos, but then also you got this nice background. So it's not just a very, you know, boring show coverage, if you will. This thing was always super cool. You definitely had just kind of an eye-appealing layout, if that makes sense. So, yeah, here you go. MT Laws. So this was kind of a cool thing. We saw it in the upper right corner with this kind of as the lead-in. This was probably an Arizona photo because this looks like the cover truck, right? Just dawned on me. That looks like the cover truck from No Regrets that we saw not too long ago. Of course, Photoshop and things like that. It wasn't white, it was blue. But this ties into different things, regulation state by state, overseas drama, mini trucking in Australia. You can always take a screenshot or bump it to 4K, kind of just showing different things. You know, their little take on, like, do you have to worry about stuff? Rules are different in different places. Here you've got, this is cool because there's a magazine, I think it was Drop Jaw, and shout out to LMC from Lowest Common Denominator, also known as LCD Podcast. He gave me the inaugural issue of that. Mike would say the first annual issue, but I say inaugural, right? The first issue. And this is Brubaker's, and LMC has told me about this feature a couple times, that famous dragging session / some of the cop cars. I think Brandon Burrell was there, I think, going from memory. This just all popped up. This is Brubaker's truck, I think, and this, of course, this is in Whitesburg. And we went there, Mike and I, last year, and we went to Cruising with Cruisers, and it was a lot of fun. Randy was there. A lot of people went all the way from Florida up there because there was a lot of good people. But there's good old Whitesburg, and I can say now that I've been there. You've got a tech article here. And then, of course, really what I hone into is that Mazda, though. Super clean. Of course, that's a Surface. Nick had a good relationship, it seemed like, with Mike, and he could knock stuff out. I think he maybe was even on staff for a certain point. We had Nick on, and we talked a lot about that, but some of that stuff's coming back to my mind. Here's Spring Bash 2006. Sweet Temptations hit the 15-year mark. There's a nice S-10 laid out. Mazda, Ranger, super low hard body. That 4x4 sheet metal, though, that thing is, yeah, definitely low when the engine's out that far. But it's definitely cool to look back at these issues. You know, so many of you chimed in. And it's cool, too, a lot of, you know, when I hear people go, oh, that was the issue that I got into mini trucking. That was my first issue. And, you know, we're in the 06, you know, the 2000s range. So it's kind of cool to hear that because, you know, not everybody that's a mini trucker has been in since the 80s and 90s and so on. So it's cool to hear that. Fraternal Toys. This is by Chad Lucas, but Mike Alexander. I think just Mike went on that trip abroad, but Chad definitely wrote this. You can see the NC logo there. Super clean truck, or clean trucks. These were unique because, you know, they had, you know, not America was kind of one of the last places it seemed like to get the crew cabs. And I know they're called different, but that's just the term in general that I use for, you know, these trucks, the four-door trucks. But, you know, you can always tell easily the ones from Mexico or Australia and stuff, the bed setups were, you know, different regulations, different marketing techniques, but you can see the names in there as well. Half Moon Havoc, so you can see here Major Fun Down Under, and you know these guys and the people that, you know, were going to these shows. You know, imagine how cool it would have been for to hear that mini trucking's coming to town. You go pick up the editor and you cruise all over the country doing awesome stuff. And shout out, you know, today at the time of this recording is the anniversary of Laurie Starling. Rest in peace. You know, he passed away. He was basically murdered 10 years ago. And it's hard to believe that now. I never met Laurie. Some of you did when he came to the U.S. because many truckers down under did come to the U.S. and they still do. And he came to LST one year. Some of you guys hung out with him and got to meet him. But those guys down under go hard, and Jamie Starling and all the kinfolk Mark and all the good people down there. Certainly appreciate you guys always looking out. Chad Lucas, Maximum Impact, super clean Mazda. I say Mazda, Mitsubishi Mighty Max. And this is one of my favorite trucks, the Mitsubishis, that has been built because it's just two of my favorite colors. I love the black and the blue, the kind of the contrast, but really that blue overall paint, super clean. Looks like a BAD steering wheel. But this one, obviously, this little flip through is taking a little bit longer because we've got more pages. You know, some there's more to talk about than others, but certainly a really good issue. Even if you are just checking us out, you know, leave a emoji thumbs up, leave a comment of some sort. If you can't watch this entire video, come back and finish it later. Add it to your watch later. Let it scroll through because it definitely helps the channel with the way the algorithm stuff is. This is Showfest 06. My son was born in October 05. And if I remember correctly, Showfest 06 I bowed out of because he at that point was, you know, give or take 6 months old. And I just was, you know, I was still going to shows, but I said, you know, I'm going to stay back. You know, each year we go up there, you know, for us was north, and we, you know, get pretty wild and have a good time and whatnot. But that was one year I did not attend. And I think in my mind, it always sticks that might have been the last year after some of the challenges creeped up, or it was the second to last year in Greenville. Now, this is Matt Torgerson's van that he ended up eventually trading, did some horse trading with Mike Lewis. Mike brings it out in this version, and I'm trying to get it to focus. You can see the severed ties in the front. Mike ended up spearheading Severed, Alabama at that time. He changed the wheels, finished it as far as the paint and whatnot. This truck, I forget if it was when Mike owned it or if he ended up getting rid of it. It did come off of a trailer. Photos still pop up of Matt's van. And what's crazy is Matt built that thing like a tank. And I think it's definitely salvageable. But if anybody knows where it's at, let us know. Here's Farva's Blazerado. This thing was just insane. Definitely took, I think it's one of those game changer type trucks, eventually when it's time, mini truck Hall of Fame type stuff, because, you look at reskinning the doors, the front end, the cover, just a really, really cool truck. A lot to talk about. And, eventually I've said this before, I need to get Farva on and talk about that really epic build. He's a good dude. Sorry it has to be said. Now here's a crazy thing. This is Chad Lucas. This truck right here, for those that didn't know, that was Scooby's S-10. He was building that crew cab S-10, and this was at Heatwave, I think, the photo, and others remember it from Pigeon Forge. Those might have been the only two shows it went to, but this mid-2000 era, there was a guy even locally here that did it, and this might have been the truck. This was never my style. The only reason I'm talking about it now, this I think is cool. I think this could have been super cool. These other ones I think are just like, I don't want to say copycat, but I will say this. There's like an app or there's some sort of thing that people were doing over the last year where they could take any vehicle and they can make it look like this in the video. Those videos are dumb. At least the people here did something. And I know people do stuff for fun, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. Don't get offended. It's just my opinion. Okay, there's that photo that I told you that probably appeared in more mini trucking magazines than any other photo. It's still going. It's still going. It's still hidden there. Here is that awesome cover, Darrell Logan's truck. Again, more pages equal more time to talk about this issue. And here you go. You get a full size that sneaks in, which I like. Here you have Matt Spence's extensive built Escalade. Looks like Matt Baker there. One of the rare rodeos in our scene. So here also, I talked a little bit about this prior. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Go back, watch our other videos. There is an Easter egg that I mentioned in the past, and of course it's fixed by now. The window is no longer broken out. Pretty cool. That's Ron Perkins's Irregular cab truck, which I think is super cool. What do you think of this issue? I think it's a dang good one. Again, 132 pages if you count the back cover. Australia's first cover, issue 178, October 2006. Mike Alexander with an epic cover shoot. Definitely one of the most awesome covers in my opinion. Consider subscribing. I know I talk a lot. There's a lot to talk about. Stay on the rise, everyone. ODB. We got ya. Peace. Don't get taken to school road.